How many guys?
An on-base percentage of 444, a slugging percentage of 607, a whopping 1,051 OPS. And you're going to tell me that guy's not a Hall of Fame?
Well, here's another thing, okay? How many times was he intentionally walked when the bases were loaded?
One, Buck Showalter did it once.
He's not the only one. He's not the only one.
He was, this is a guy who was intentionally walked 120 times in 2004.
He was intentionally walked a zillion times. Nobody ever wanted it. The only guy I can remember, there's only two guys I can remember, okay, that wanted to pitch to him and insisted on not walking him ever. Okay, and they only played against him a couple of times. That would be Roger Clemens and Mariano Rivera. I can remember Mariano Rivera walked. There was second and third and one out, and he walked somebody. I can't remember who it was. No, he walked Kent, I think, because he wanted to face Bonds. Okay, and sure enough, he got Bonds to hit into a double play. So, he got the ground ball in on him, and he hit into a double play. But other than those two guys, I can't remember any other team, any other pitchers, and that includes the other Yankees who had a pitch to him, that weren't deathly afraid of him and didn't even bother to challenge him. I mean, think of how many times he came up and basically would go out of the strike zone and just crush a baseball. That guy was just he was a human. He was so good.
So I just added up on baseballreference.com. Barry Bonds walked more than he struck out in 18 of his 22 seasons. Barry Bonds has more intentional walks in his career than the Tampa Bay Rays have in their franchise's history. These are all real stats. I couldn't make these up if I tried. And he is not good enough. He's not blessed because he was a little bit of a jerk and he was linked to steroids. God forbid. Steroids don't help your hand-eye coordination. Steroids don't help your athleticism. Do they help your overall strength and recovery? Sure they do. But guess what? A lot of guys were doing them, including one, David Ortiz, linked multiple times to steroids. He gets to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Are you freaking kidding me? David Ortiz, a DH, a half a ball player, is a first ballot Hall of Famer with just over 77% of the vote. This isn't like Edgar Martinez. Hold on, Brad. I'll let you go because I know you hate the Red Sox and you're disgusted by this as well, Mr. Yankee over there. But Edgar Martinez is a DH. Edgar Martinez had to be a DH because he got injured. Edgar Martinez played first base at a decent level for over half his career. David Ortiz isn't coordinated enough to bend over to pick up the remote off the living room floor, let alone play a position in the MLB. Half a ball player like David Ortiz, linked to steroids, being a first ballot Hall of Famer with 77% of the vote, and Barry Bonds being shut out yet again. Barry Bonds is done. He's got to get in on the old timers ballot. However the hell that works, because you have these grandstanding media people who, instead of reporting the news, want to be the news. Their job is not to be the morality police and evaluate whether this guy is good enough. Did he disrespect the crest? Or is he good? Because Ortiz, he gave quotes to the media, but he used steroids and he never played the field, so he gets to be in. But now I got to watch Barry Bonds, Pete Rose, Roger Clemens, Gary Sheffield. If David Ortiz is in and no one cares about his PED use, Gary Sheffield, a much better ball player than David Ortiz.
Gary Sheffield played short and third and first.
It's just, and I've been done with the NFL Hall of Fame for a while now because of the way they do things, because they let my boy T.O. wait 3 years. He's the second best receiver ever. They made him wait 3 years. There's the definition of a first ballot Hall of Famer in the NFL is Terrell Owens. Because he was a jerk and he was disrespectful to the media, so he doesn't get the vote. Never got in trouble off the field. Never took plays off. Almost won, beat the immaculate Tom Brady in the Super Bowl on one freaking leg, and he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. Are you kidding me? So I've been done with that Hall of Fame forever. And this David Ortiz nomination, I'm done. Cooperstown doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. A big part of mine, I know I'm going off here, and I'm going to let you talk, I promise, Brad. But
right, good. I'm just getting amused because I love
criteria that I have for the Hall of Fame is when it comes to steroid use, if you serve the suspension, you're out. I know you don't agree with that, but that's mine. And number 2 should be, can you adequately tell someone who doesn't know anything about baseball, about the history of baseball, without Barry Bonds, without Roger Clemens, without Pete Rose? My answer is no. I can easily tell someone the history of baseball without using the name David Ortiz. And that's going to hurt the Phillies, my Phillies, with Howard and Utley and Rollins, because as much as Phillies fans may not want to hear it, I can tell the story of baseball, the history of baseball, without those 3 guys. They're not Hall of Famers. You cannot look me in the face and tell me the story of baseball without using Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, or Pete Rose. I would even put Maguire and Sosa on that list too, because they saved baseball, Brad. Now everyone wants to look down on them with the stain.
Especially Maguire. Maguire had 584 home runs.
But everybody wants to look at those guys like they're scum of the earth because they use steroids, and it's pretty obvious they use steroids. I think Maguire's admitted it.
So did the big fat sloppy in Boston. And I'm using nice language because you know what my nickname is for him, but I don't want to use that on the air. Okay, but big sloppy has no business being in the Hall of Fame, especially over Bonds. Bonds, as I said, I've watched a lot of great players. Okay, I mean, I'm an old man, so take it from me. I've been watching baseball since 1966, and Barry Bonds pisses on Willie Mays, Mickey Mantle, Henry Aaron. I can name a bunch more. Willie McCovey, Willie Stargell. I could go on and on, okay? He pisses on Mike Trout. He was there every game. He was out there playing every game. Nobody wanted to face him just because he was a prick to the media. Big deal. Big deal. I didn't realize that being nice to the media is why you're on the Hall of Fame. Think of this. Think of how stupid and incompetent this Hall of Fame is with these writers. And also think about another thing, okay? Could you imagine if Ty Cobb played today with the shit he used to do?
Biggest scumbag of all time.
He was a dirtbag, and he hated the media. He used to start fights with the media. You know what? These assholes that are voting today, they probably wouldn't have voted him in because he hurt somebody's feelings. I mean, what kind of shit? It's a disgrace, because I'll tell you what, Big Sloppy couldn't catch a freaking beach ball. He was the worst defensive player probably in the history of baseball, okay? That's why he didn't play the field. Not because he was injured like Edgar Martinez was and he couldn't move because of his ankle, okay? He never played the field because he was incapable. Minnesota let him go because they needed a guy who could field, and they had a first baseman who could field. His name was Justin Morneau, who, by the way, probably deserves to be in the Hall of Fame a hell of a lot more than the one-way player that David Ortiz was. Okay? David Ortiz was a big fat slob who hit behind Manny Ramirez. Okay? That's a fact. Okay? That's a fact. The man couldn't field. Okay? He took steroids and he cried, "Oh, I didn't pass the test. Oh, I deny it wholeheartedly." So guess what? The stupid-ass baseball writers, because he kissed everybody's ass, voted him in. And on the first ballot, are you freaking kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? And you don't put Bonds in? Bonds is the greatest player that I've ever seen. Okay? And as I said before, I didn't get to see Mickey in his prime in the 50s. I'm not that old. Okay? So maybe he was just as good, maybe better. I don't know. I didn't see him play back then. I saw him when he could barely run around the bases when he hit a home run. Okay? But it's a freaking joke. Are you going to vote all because I'll tell you what, if you're going to put Ortiz in, then you got to put Barry in. You have to put Clemens in. You have to put Pete Rose in because you know what? Just because Pete broke a law, so did them. So if you're gonna put all the imperfect people in, you got to put Palmeiro in. Remember Rafael Palmeiro? I think he hit over 500 home runs.
500 home runs and 3,000 hits.
Yeah,
not in the Hall of Fame.
Right. And won a few Golden Gloves, by the way, at first base. And he also played the outfield. Just wanted to remind those morons that Mark Maguire and Sammy Sosa. Mark Maguire had 70 home runs, something like that one year. I think Bonds broke his record, but Mark Maguire had an unbelievable career. He had like 580 home runs. Okay, I think Mark Maguire took steroids because he kept getting hurt. And he was trying to make sure that he stopped getting injured.
Like I
can't justify whether you want to put the Hall of Fame guys in that were doing steroids, but if you put one in, you got to put them all in. And to think that a sport like baseball would have probably let's put it this way, two of the best players it's ever had all time. The all-time batting leader, that would be Pete Rose. The all-time home run leader, that would be Barry Bonds. Okay, and a 5-time Cy Young Award winner, Roger Clemens, who struck out over 3,000 guys. To have those three not in your Hall of Fame, what is wrong with you, baseball? Wake up, because your favoritism and your stupidity are a joke. I know that most of you freaking idiots, especially the idiots over at ESPN, who by the way, I'm not going to kiss your asses either. Okay, you guys all suck. You're all Red Sox fans, and I know every single one of yous, including Gammons and all those other retards. Okay, I know yous all voted for him because he's your boy. Oh, it doesn't matter if he cheated. It doesn't matter that he couldn't even put a glove on. He couldn't find a glove because probably his hand was too fat to put one on. Okay, he couldn't catch a pop-up if you gave him a map and directions. Okay, that's how bad he was. He had probably the worst hands. He was a butcher. He made Greg Lucinski. Okay, Greg Lucinski, remember him? Okay, not exactly the most coordinated outfielder. He made him look like a Gold Glove ball player. Okay, he made Horace Clark look like Babe Ruth in the outfield. Okay, and Babe Ruth had a great arm, by the way. I could give you a lot of examples. Okay, but I don't need to go through all the examples. David Ortiz offensively was a Hall of Fame player, but he couldn't field at all. Okay, if he can field a little bit, just a little bit. Okay, let's say he was. I'm thinking of a guy who was. Let's say he could field like
Ryan Howard.
Yeah, okay. I'll get. Well, Ryan Howard was not a bad. It was not a bad first baseman.
I mean, he worked really hard to be average.
Yeah,
fielding.
He was okay. Okay, I'll give you that. Let's say he could field like Ryan Howard. Okay, I'd be okay with that. Okay, but the guy couldn't catch the ball. That's why he never played the field. Do you ever notice when the Red Sox were in the National League parks? Did he ever play? A few times maybe, because they just had to put him out there. But as soon as they could get him out, they got him out because they knew it. Could you imagine if somebody bunted the ball to first base and he had to field it? He'd probably trip over himself.
Sounds like a sure hit every time.
Yeah, I mean, listen, David Ortiz, if you remember CeCe Sabathia at the end of the field, how bad he was defensively, okay? Multiply that by 10, and that's David Ortiz. He was a disgrace to the infield. He could not field at all. And you're putting a guy like that in the Hall of Fame?
And Brad, like you kind of touched on it in your rant, and I started to touch on it in my rant at the top of the show. Like the Cooperstown has a serious credibility problem.
Now that they've been exposed for the frauds that they are, that only the guys that they like get in, then who's going to respect them?
So
I sure as hell am not.
You have a Hall of Fame which is supposed to represent the best of the best. You know, the pinnacle of your sport of baseball. And you have Barry Bonds, who's a 7-time MVP, a 14-time All-Star, an 8-time Gold Glove, a 2-time batting champion, a 12-time Silver Slugger, a home run derby champion. a 3-time, I guess what is it? Major League Player of the Year. TSN. So TSN Major League Player of the Year. He won that 3 times too. And then you have Roger Clemens, who as a pitcher was an MVP of, I guess, the American League, a 7-time Cy Young Award winner, an 11-time All-Star, a 2-time Triple Crown winner, which is what? Strikeouts, wins, and ERA. So he did that not once but twice. A 7-time ERA champion, a 2-time World Series champion, and an All-Star Game MVP. You don't have room for him. And then you have the hit king, Pete Rose. He was an MVP. He was a 7-time All-Star. He was a Rookie of the Year. He was a 3-time World Series champion. He won a Silver Slugger. He won a couple Gold Gloves. He was a 3-time batting champ. Oh, yeah, and he has the most hits in Major League history. And by the way, with the way these fairies play now, like they every other day off, and you need this, and you go on the DL spin for a broken nail, ain't no one going to ever get as many hits as Pete Rose got. No one.
No, not going to happen.
What's his hits at? 4,256 hits over 24 seasons. That's an average of 194 hits a year. So
and guess what?
Someone has to hit 200 hits over a 25-year span.
He didn't DH either.
A quarter of a decade? That's never going to happen. Ever in a billion years going to happen. So you have those three giants have character issues, and they're not allowed to be in the Hall of Fame. You have a serious credibility issue in the Hall of Fame. I'll never step foot in Cooperstown. I'll never step foot in Canton. I don't respect them. I don't think they're an accurate depiction of the football and baseball history. And I just have no time for it, Brad. I'm not going to waste my time, parading through a baseball or football Hall of Fame when I just simply don't respect them. I don't respect their methodology and their ideology and the way they select players and the way they want to represent the history of their sport. I have no time for it. I have no time nor patience.
It's ridiculous.
Have you been to the Baseball Hall of Fame?
No.
Really?
I've driven past it. I was in Cooperstown on business, but I mean, I couldn't stay there and walk into the place. I would have loved to have gone, but I'll tell you what, after this debacle, forget it. They ain't getting my money. No way.
I just don't have respect for it.
They're the hall of politics. That's all they are. Okay? It's a freaking joke. It's pathetic. I mean, what you have to be a good guy to get in. And you think David Ortiz was such a good guy? This is a piece of garbage that was messing around with a drug lord's wife. Okay? And the drug lord went and was going to shoot his wife, but instead he couldn't get her, so he shot Ortiz instead. This is the kind of piece of crap that you're putting in the Hall of Fame? Okay? Because you like him? Would he sign an autograph ball for you, you big freaking bunch of fairies? You want an autograph ball? I got plenty of autograph crap. Hey, look. I got an autograph puck of Mika Zibanejad. See, number 93. Big fucking deal. I got to know. Does that mean that Mika Zibanejad, in my opinion, should make the Hall of Fame? Are you freaking kidding me? Come on. That's ridiculous. I mean, the whole point is, and John Malmos, I agree. Hockey is a little different. Hockey, they actually do a pretty good job of getting guys in that belong in. But baseball, the Baseball Hall of Fame has become a joke. Okay? The fact that somebody didn't vote for Derek Jeter just because they're a freaking Yankee hater when the guy had 3,470 hits, okay, which, by the way, is the most hits of any shortstop all time in baseball, and won 5 championships. He's not unanimous? Why? Why did you not vote for what reason?
Yeah, then a reliever like Mariano Rivera is unanimous, who only pitched when the team is winning and always pitched on great teams. So, but he's
Yes,
unanimous.
he did. Well,
and by the way, Derek Jeter, 3,400 hits. Pete Rose had 1,000 more hits than him, and basically the same amount of seasons. And Pete Rose is in the Hall of Fame. It's crazy.
Think about this, Rob. Derek Jeter had over 200 hits as a shortstop 7 times, and he doesn't get in unanimously. And listen, I love Rivera. Don't get me wrong. If you look at his post-game statistics, okay, the man's ERA, okay, in postseason was under 1, and he pitched a hell of a lot of postseason games. I don't know the exact amount, but he was a great player. But he's still a relief pitcher, okay, which means he pitched maybe 3-4 innings a week. You know, if that. And you're talking about a guy like Barry Bonds, who played 24, how many seasons? 20, 19, 20? 22 seasons, okay? Was the greatest hitter I've ever seen. This guy was unbelievable. He can hit home runs to left field, to center field, to right field. He could not even swing hard and just crush the ball. And he always could do that. Even when he was in Pittsburgh, you could see how great he was. And the fact that and here's another guy that should be in the Hall of Fame, but because he had a, quote, bad attitude towards the writers, his boy Jeff Kent, who batted in front of him. Okay? How is Jeff Kent not in the Hall of Fame?
We're going to look at some guys. We're going to look at some guys in a few minutes
The Hall of Fame disgusts me. Okay? They give Carlton Fisk, they put him in the Hall of Fame. Well, clearly Thurman Munson was 100 times better than Carlton Fisk ever could have been.
Thurman Munson should be in the Hall of Fame.
Killed in a freaking plane crash. Okay? Is that his fault? The man, 3 years in a row, batted 300 and had over 100 RBIs 3 years in a row as a catcher. Okay? He won 2 championships, and that's not a Hall of Fame player?
Thurman Munson, his baseball reference page is fascinating because he would get 100 RBIs a year, and he would hit like 8 home runs.
That's correct. He
Which
wasn't
is crazy.
A home run hitter. He just, when there was runners on base, he got the hit every time. I mean, even in the playoff series, in that one-game playoff, when everybody talks about the Reggie Jackson home run that put the game out of reach, and Bucky Dent's 3-run home run, people forget the RBI single that made it 4-2. Okay, after Bucky Dent hit the home run, the Yankees kept hitting, and then Munson had a crucial hit to make it 4-2. Okay, people seem to forget that, and you know I remember when they got swept by the Reds in '76. Thurman Munson hit 500 in that series. 500. I mean, this guy, and he also won at least 2 or 3 Gold Gloves. I can't remember, but this guy was clearly a Hall of Famer. And you're gonna say that his career wasn't long enough? I mean, listen, I love Sandy Koufax, and I don't want to say anything bad about Sandy Koufax because greatest pitcher ever. But if you take a look at it, he had great numbers for 5 years. The rest of his career was kind of meh. Okay, so if you're looking at that, okay, 5 great years, and you're putting him in the Hall of Fame. Just a fact, and I'm not denying. Listen, I think the guy's the greatest pitcher of all time, but there's always an excuse because you don't like somebody. And Thurman was a grumpy guy. He was not a pleasant man at all. Okay, he just wanted to mind his own business, take his plane, and fly home after the game. Okay, didn't even really want to play for the Yankees. Wanted to play for the Indians. Okay, because he was a family guy and he loved his family. So you know what? He goes and he gets an airplane and tries to learn how to fly, and unfortunately, we all know what happens. The Baseball Hall of Fame is a joke. Okay, the fact that you don't have your greatest hit player of all time, Barry Bonds, your greatest hitter of all time, Pete Rose, and one of your greatest pitchers of all time, okay, and that would be Roger Clemens. The fact that you don't have them in the Hall of Fame, plus several players that are clearly Hall of Fame worthy, and Rafael Palmeiro, Mark Maguire, Sammy Sosa. I mean, the list could go on and on and on. You know,
let's get
I'm surprised they voted Eddie Murray in. Because I'll tell you what, nobody really liked Eddie Murray. Eddie Murray was like one of the most unpleasant guys you'd ever want to meet. Shocked that they voted him in.
All right, let's get to some comments here. Our comments brought to you by Alan Foy, eXp Realty. Looking to buy or sell a home, looking for a change in career brokerage, contact Alan Foy, 302-682-8820, or visit him at alan.foy@exprealty.com. Rob Lawrence, he's in the house. He doesn't think Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. Barry Bonds needs to be reprimanded for his steroids, for use of steroids and more.
What did David Ortiz do? Did I not mention the fact that he bought a woman who was married?
What do you mean by reprimanded?
A $63,000 Lexus and almost got his wife shot, and then he got shot. Okay, that's a real man. Let me tell you something. That's a class act. Okay, doing that. I mean, what kind of piece of crap does stuff? And then he has the sympathy of all the little fairy Boston fans. Oh, poor David. Oh, too bad, David. You know what? You shouldn't have been sticking your you-know-what where it doesn't belong. Okay? You almost got your wife shot, and you think you should be in the Hall of Fame?
And then as far as reprimanding Barry Bonds for steroid use, I mean, I don't have a positive test. I have no hard evidence that Barry, other than speculation and hearsay.
The Mitchell report.
Am I supposed to take that? Is that like a legally binding document? The MLB didn't hand out suspensions based on the Mitchell report.
No, because they didn't have anything in place. But he clearly took steroids. Okay, he's a cheater.
I mean, okay.
It doesn't matter if he wasn't whether he was suspended or not. He took them. He was on the Mitchell report. Okay, they put anybody who took them was on the Mitchell report. You know, they were so quick to crush Alex Rodriguez, who's another guy that, quite honestly, are you going to tell me he doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame? 697 home runs. Okay, come on. It's ridiculous already. We know what these guys have done. Mike Piazza, we know what he did. He's in the Hall of Fame. Okay, and we know, and he had all the telltale signs. He had pimples all over his back and the whole thing. They all knew. But he was Mike Piazza, and he played for the New York Mets and the Los Angeles Dodgers, and you have to put him in. God forbid. Okay, Jeff Bagwell, they didn't vote him in for a long time because they suspected he did steroids. I don't know if he was on the Mitchell report, but he's a guy that should have been in a long time ago. And it took forever to put him in because they thought he was doing steroids. You know what? It's enough. If you're going to put one in, you got to put them all in. If you don't want to put one in, then don't put any of them in. I would respect the Hall of Fame a lot more with Bonds if Ortiz wasn't in. Okay, but you're already starting to put guys in. You can't ignore Bonds. You can't ignore what the guy did. Okay, you can't ignore Pete Rose.
And that's like it's like the college football thing. Like when Reggie Bush in 2005, like he's not the Heisman Trophy winner anymore because like whatever USC and Nike gave him an Escalade to drive around campus. I can't unsee Reggie Bush playing college football in 2005. He was the Heisman Trophy winner. I don't care if he's banned or whatever. You take his name off the trophy. Like I saw it with my eyes. I can't unsee Reggie Bush in 2005 at USC. He was the Heisman Trophy winner. Period. End of story. I can't unsee what I saw from Barry Bonds. I'm 32, so like I'll give it to like 1998 to 2007 when he hung it up. I can't unsee that. I can't unsee 70. Barry Bonds got 3 pitches to hit a week and was hitting 60, 70 bombs a season.
Yeah,
it was crazy. Right, Pete Evans checks in. Check out Pete on Birds of a Feather every Thursday night. Hopefully Pete's feeling better. A little under the weather this week. Barry Bonds lovely belongs in the Hall of Fame. Correct answer, Pete. Thank you. Welcome to the show. Tommy Arnone's in the house. One of the biggest baseball fans I know. He thinks Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. Michael, Wesley, Chromiak. Hey, fellas, I don't believe in shutting out an entire steroid era. It's a noted era in its time, and they'll be known for playing then, but he's absolutely belongs in as Clemens and Maguire.
If you wanted to put if the Baseball Hall of Fame wanted to put a little note on their plaque that they played in the steroid era and they may have either failed the test, got suspended, or whatever it is, or was suspected, and they want to put that on their plaque, go ahead and do it. But you can't deny. It's like you're making like these guys don't exist. They don't count. That they're insignificant.
Well, what about the dead ball era?
Well, the dead ball era, you've got guys that were great hitters.
What about the guys? What about the guys from the Negro leagues?
I think some of them have gotten recognized.
But do they get a little asterisk on their plaque? God forbid you put an asterisk on a Negro League guy.
Well,
holy smokes! Everyone would freak out.
Yeah, but they didn't cheat though. They weren't.
It's
cheaters.
just different eras. Baseball has all these different eras, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah, they do. They do.
So
but
what?
Again,
this guy's in the steroid era. This guy's from the Negro leagues. This guy's in the dead ball era. This guy's in the live ball era. This guy is in the. It's just exhausting how you want to make all these different divisions.
Ty Cobb was the rudest, dirtiest player to ever play the game. He used to injure 2 or 3 shortstops a week, from what I read. Okay, and was rude as hell to the media, and you know what? They ended up voting him in. But these soft writers who are clueless and don't care about the game, they just want to make like they're the game because they're telling the story. Well, you know what, you guys, you're not telling the story.
No,
by not putting guys like that in the Hall of Fame, you're not telling any story.
No, the Baseball Writers Association is the news. They don't report the news. They are the news, which is a problem in itself. If you're a reporter and you're constantly in the headlines, you're doing your job wrong. Your job is to report what Barry Bonds does on the field. Unbiased, unopinionated, unobjectively. Not make the news, be the story, and try to be the morality police on if Barry Bonds should be recognized as one of the greatest ball players ever, because he is. Maguire was crushing home runs at an insane clip as well before all the steroid stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Maguire and Sosa guy to be in the Hall of Fame. I can't explain. I am blessed enough to have kids one day. I can't sit there and explain the history of baseball without using the name Mark Maguire, Sammy Sosa, Roger Clemens, Pete Rose, and Barry Bonds.
And Chrome, I do agree with you about Jim Edmonds, by the way.
Rob Povia, MLB and the Writers Association is an old boys club. When you don't come clean, they will just blackball whoever they want. It's disgusting, but it is what it is. Sad thing is, Bonds could have got in on Pirate numbers alone pre-steroids. One of the greatest, would have been the greatest leadoff hitter of all time. The Baseball Hall of Fame is a sham. It's the only Hall of Fame that doesn't recognize how defensive excellence affects a game. It's a one-sided and loaded with favoritism. Yes.
Yeah, and Bryce Blackwell wasn't Ty Cobb a racist, and Ty Cobb was a scumbag.
The biggest racist ever.
He was the worst form of humanity to ever play the game. Okay, he gets in. Okay, and you're worried. You're going to worry about Pete Rose because he bet on some games. Okay, which as a manager, not as a player, but as a manager. Okay, and by the way, he never bet against the Reds. Just wanted to clear that up.
And nowadays, every sports league is sponsored by DraftKings or FanDuel or BetRivers Casino or Unibet or whatever.
Yeah, and we have to see. I mean, I'm watching a Ranger game the other night, and I'm watching. I'm watching in the corner of every commercial. There's a freaking commercial for DraftKings or whoever it is that they're hosting. I mean, come on already with that holier than thou garbage. Okay, as I said before about Big Papi, okay, he almost got his wife killed because he couldn't keep it in his pants. And worse yet, a drug lord in the Dominican Republic, his wife, and you buy her a $63,000 Lexus? Really? Oh, you're just such a great character. You're just a doll, David. Let me tell you something. I wish everybody could be. I wish I could be like you. Okay, and get shot because I just had to mess with a with somebody who sells heroin, his wife, okay, and not just some guy on the street, a drug lord, a freaking drug lord, and this is what you put in the Hall of Fame, and you're worried about Pete Rose, and you're worried about Barry Bonds. I mean, it's gotten to a point where these guys should no longer be voting. Plain and simple, they're not qualified. Okay, I don't know who you want to vote, but baseball writers should not be allowed to vote.
John Malmos, they all cheated. No, yesterday's players wouldn't pass a piss test in today's game. No, you're probably right.
Yeah, they were taking greenies. Come on. We all know what they used to do. They used to take amphetamines to stay awake. Okay? I mean, maybe Babe Ruth didn't because they probably didn't have them back then. I don't know. But maybe he was just drunk all the time and it didn't matter. I don't know. Who the heck knows? But you know what? The whole point is it's enough already. As I said, either you put them all in or you don't let any of them in. But now you're putting them in based on who you like. And if you're going to put in people based on who you like, okay, I'm not interested in viewing your museum because your museum is a sham. It's a big freaking joke.
Chrome, Chrome doesn't understand how a guy who hits 350 to 400 home runs with 8 to 12 Gold Gloves doesn't get recognized as a great player, particularly when you compare him to the steroid era guys. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with Chrome. Like, wouldn't a guy like that be super elevated in this holier-than-thou voting process that we have from the Baseball Writers Association? It's just a total joke. A guy like Chrome just mentioned should be, like glorified because, I mean, 350 to 450 home runs, I mean, maybe you did steroids, but, like, that's not, like, outrageous, eye-popping, and then 8 to 12 Gold Gloves. That means you play great defense. By the way, Barry Bonds had 8 Gold Gloves, 7 MVPs, and is the all-time leader in home runs, a 298 career average, 514 stolen bases, a career on-base percentage of 444, career slugging percentage of 607. If you add that up, that's an OPS of 1051. You don't have room for him? You don't have a spot for him?
You don't want to.
You don't have a seat for him at the table
because he may have done steroids. Probably did do steroids, but you know what? That doesn't take away what a great player he was. Okay,
and Chrome,
that guy. I can understand if it's somebody that's kind of on the edge, on the bubble, and doing roids, and you're trying to decide, well, should I put him in? Should we put him in or should we not put him in? Okay, if you want to get to that point, okay, fine. But we're not talking about a guy who is on the edge. Okay, we're not talking about guys who may, you can make an argument for and against. We're talking about one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player to ever play the game. Okay, and if you're going to talk about because he has no championships, okay, Ken Griffey doesn't have any championships. Okay, and he was injured all the time, and he still hit a shitload of home runs. But the bottom line is everybody liked Griffey. So what are you going to do now? Now that you've made it a fact that you're going to put it on the old timers committee to vote it in, they're going to make it. They'll probably if they vote for him, are you going to like throw them off the committee because you made the freaking sports writers feel bad? You may have hurt somebody's feelings. I mean, is that what this is all about? Think about a couple of other things, Rob. Think how long it took to put Gil Hodges in the Hall of Fame from some of those great Brooklyn Dodger teams, or Phil Rizzuto, who was the most important cog in the wheel of those 49 to 53 Yankee teams that won 5 World Series in a row. Okay, the guy was a shortstop in an era when shortstops were not great hitters. Okay, he was a pretty darn good hitter. And he won an MVP, by the way, which when you think about it, he probably hit 3 or 4 home runs that season. How good a shortstop was he to be able to win a Hall of Fame? And they didn't, and they wouldn't put him in the Hall of Fame. Even the old timers committee wouldn't put him in the Hall of Fame until a couple of those guys died, and Ted Williams basically was going to beat up the whole committee if they didn't vote for him, because Ted knew how good he was because he kept Ted Williams out of the World Series for all those years. when he was with Boston.
Chrome throws out Andre Dawson versus Jim Edmonds. Andre Dawson, who's in the Hall of Fame.
I'm sorry, Andre Dawson. I'm sorry, Chrome. I like Edmonds, but he was not as good as Andre Dawson. Andre Dawson was just the arm he had, the power he had, and when you think about how many,
they're similar numbers, Brad.
They are similar, but I've seen them both play. I mean, Andre Dawson was better.
It's not about that. It doesn't matter. Like,
I mean, the eye test, and I got to see them both play a lot.
But why does one get the nod and one not? Just because Andre Dawson was better than Jim Edmonds doesn't mean Jim Edmonds isn't a Hall of Famer.
No, but you can't say that Andre Dawson isn't.
He's not saying that.
Okay, what is he saying? Is he saying that he should?
So Andre Dawson played 21 years, 279 batting average, 438 home runs, 1,591 RBIs, 8 Gold Gloves. Whereas Jim Edmonds played 19 years, 284 career average, so a little higher average, 393 home runs, a little less home runs, and then significantly less RBIs, same amount of Gold Gloves, and he won a World Series.
Listen, if you're asking me, I think Jim Edmonds does belong in the Hall of Fame.
So what? If Jim Edmonds and Chrome, I'm with you, Chrome. I'm with you because
I'm not disagreeing. I can't disagree.
If Jim Edmonds hit 7 more home runs to get the 400th, is that like? So then he's in now. So he's 7 home runs short of 400.
You're not wrong about that. Let me ask you this: what about Fred McGriff?
I'm an advocate of the crime dog being in the Hall of Fame. We've had this discussion many times.
What is the issue with him? He has 493 home runs, I think.
He has a lot. We're gonna bring up a couple of people, and we're gonna look at the guys that didn't get in this time, and we got a new class that'll be next year in 2023.
Well, nobody next year. I've seen some of the new guys that are in next year, and by the way, Curt Schilling should be in the Hall of Fame too.
You think?
Oh, come on! What is he? What did he do? Just because he's a kook doesn't make him.
I don't care about that. But when I look at his number, I guess. I mean, you can give him a little bounce because he was on the Phillies for a while.
How many championships did the guy win? 2, right?
He won in Boston and he won in Arizona.
Yeah, he was one of the best He was one of the best pitchers every year. That guy.
Right. He probably should be. Well, he'll definitely never get in because he's a Republican.
Right, and God forbid, because he's a Republican, he should not get in. But he should be in too. I mean, he's another one. And you know what? And listen, you can't sit here and tell me that I'm being prejudiced against Ortiz because he's a Red Sox. Okay, I hated Curt Schilling. I couldn't stand the guy. He was a Red Sox and he used to kill the Yankees. But you know what? The guy was a Hall of Famer. Every time that guy pitched, he was brilliant. You know, he didn't start to stink until after he hurt his knee. He was great with the Phillies. You know, I mean, the only reason to even watch the Phillies was when he was pitching back in his day. You know, I can remember he was almost.
So he's actually won. He actually has 3 rings, Brad.
2 with Arizona? No, 1 with Arizona.
04, 07 with Boston.
Okay, so how can a guy who has over 200 wins?
Yeah, but my beef with Curt Schilling is that he doesn't have Cy Youngs or MVPs.
Yeah, but he was a money player.
And I understand that, and I respect that.
He won enough games. Listen, Mike Bucina is in.
I advocated for him for a lot of years.
I know, but Mike, listen,
Mike Bucina has like 80 more wins than Curt Schilling.
I understand that.
That's a lot.
Okay. Yeah, but it's not Schilling's fault that he also played for a horrible team for his first several years in the league. I mean, Mike Bucina played for the Orioles, and you may see what the Orioles are like now. Okay, but if you saw when he pitched for them, the Orioles were an excellent ball club. I mean, that was back in the day when they had some real good players on their team. I mean, they had guys like Rafael Palmeiro, who was, I've said a million times now, should be in the Hall of Fame. They had guys like him on the team. Who else was on that team? Yeah, it's been a while, but
Curt Schilling should be in.
Curt
Mike Bucina is in.
Curt Schilling should be in. Come on, I mean, what did he need to do? Okay, because he didn't have. Now wins don't mean anything. Okay, but if you take a look at all the strikeouts he had, how many times did he go out there in a big game and win? Every freaking time there was a big game, he would pitch great. I mean, you can't deny that. I'm sorry. When you win playoff games, when you're in big games, like for example, like Bob Gibson was in, okay, there's no denying how good Curt Schilling was. And again, it's another one of these, they don't like him. And you know what? I'm really, really sick of the Hall of Fame with who they like and who they don't like, because that it's gotten to a point where now the Hall of Fame is just embarrassing itself. They're embarrassing Major League Baseball, and you've got a gutless, spineless commissioner who won't do anything about it. Okay? I mean, think about this. Okay? The Houston Astros got caught cheating. Okay? They were legitimate cheaters. Okay? People got fired because of what they did. But yet they get to be world champions. And a couple of guys take steroids, and some of them get in and some of them don't, because some guy may have got his panties in a bunch one day because they didn't like what somebody said to them. I mean, you can't. It's terrible. That's a joke. You know, and it's an embarrassment. It's just another black eye on Major League Baseball. And I'm not going to completely blame this on Manfred. Manfred doesn't control the voting for the Hall of Fame. Okay, but it happened. This particular incident happened under his watch. Okay, and a bunch of this stuff has happened under his watch. And you know what? He should have a little bit more influence on the Hall of Fame. And just he's the commissioner. He can do whatever he wants. He could put these guys. He could put Pete Rose back, and he could get him unsuspended from baseball and get him in the Hall of Fame, because that's what has to happen first, obviously, for Pete Rose. But he won't, because he's a worm, and he's a gutless worm. I mean,
Chrome chimes in with Bobby Abreu. I can't go with Bobby Abreu.
No, Bobby Abreu.
Seriously, go look at his career statistics, particularly his advanced metrics. You'd be surprised how much more qualified he is for the Hall of Fame than some of these guys. I mean, I agree with you. When you have a Hall of Fame that has a guy like Harold Baines in the Hall of Fame, and Barry Bonds is not in the Hall of Fame, like, yeah, it opens up Pandora's box to guys like Bobby Abreu. But I mean, Chrome, you made a lot of sense up till then, but I can't. I'm not with you on Bobby Abreu. You know what? And Bobby Abreu, he played in Philadelphia for a lot of years. A lot of his prime years were in Philadelphia. The guy just dogged it way too much.
Listen, I like
way too much for me to put him in the Hall of Fame.
I liked him when he was I liked him as a Yankee. Okay, but this crap that he was afraid that he wouldn't run after a baseball if it was near the warning track because he was worried about hitting the fence.
True.
That doesn't play in New York, and I'm sure he did the same crap in Philadelphia.
Yeah, but the Phillies stunk for most of his career because of like that mentality. So like it kind of like got like it didn't get made big of a deal. Like he was just our one guy. He hit third every night. He hit 300 almost every year. He won the home run derby one year. So he was like the lone bright spot in like a really bad era of Phillies baseball. So a lot of that stuff kind of got swept under the rug. But when he went to New York, he got crushed.
Listen, here's my problem with Bobby Abreu. Okay, and I liked him. He was a pretty good hitter. I always was happy when he was up. I always had a lot of confidence.
Yeah, he would work the count. He would walk.
Yeah, he would get a lot. But here's the problem with all the walks. Okay, Bobby Abreu, when there was runners on second and third, okay, and the pitcher was and he had the pitcher in a 2-0 count. Instead of trying to get the base hit and 2 RBIs, he tried to draw the walk instead, and that was always a problem to me. And I know a lot of other Yankee fans felt the same way about him in his day with the Yankees. I'm sure he. Yeah,
and he was one of those guys. He was one of those guys. Like, no, I hit third. I don't hit first. If you want to draw a walk every time, go hit first. You want to steal 400 bases and walk every time, you got to hit first. You hit leadoff.
He led off a few times with the Yankees.
He would be the biggest crybaby whenever Francona or any of the Bella, any of those managers would put him in the leadoff spot anywhere but third. He would get his panties in a bunch.
I don't think Joe Torre. Joe Torre wouldn't have let him tell.
Well, yeah, but the Phillies sucked, and like he had some. It was just.
Yeah, no, I hear you. He was a good player.
Thomas Gresh. Bonds would have been a Hall of Famer without PEDs, but he did it to himself. mean, okay.
Yeah,
Don't tell me Cooperstown is credible then. If you're not going to have Pete Rose, Curt Schilling, Sosa, Maguire, Clemens, Pete Rose, if you're not going to have those guys in, don't tell me Cooperstown is an accurate depiction of your sports history, because it's not. It's not. It's a sham and it's agenda, and I have no time for it. I'll never step foot on those grounds, ever.
Not until they get their acts together.
Curt Schilling should be in it. Mike Mussina's in the Hall of Fame, a person I advocated for a while. Mike Mussina, the Moose. Then Curt Schilling should definitely be in. Curt Schilling doesn't have a shot in hell of getting in the Hall of Fame because of his political views. And that's wrong. It doesn't matter if he's a Democrat or a Republican. It matters about how he pitched every fifth day during his career.
Exactly. And if you're
Manfred Song, everybody thinks.
And if you're telling me that he's not that he's not a Hall of Famer, you obviously either don't like him personally, or that's the only thing I could think of, that you don't like him personally. Because I mean, as I said before, I'm a Yankee fan saying that he belongs in the Hall of Fame. Okay, so if anybody's going to say that and be prejudiced toward him, it would be me. But I don't understand it. Just ridiculous.
Brad, is Jeff Kent a Hall of Famer?
I think he is. I want to look up Jeff Kent.
I got it right here.
Okay, hang on.
Yeah, second baseman.
But he was really freaking good.
Five-time All-Star, 4-time Silver Slugger Award. He did win an MVP. He was the MVP in 2000 with the San Francisco Giants. 377 career home runs, 290 career batting average. On base 356, slugging 500. Career OPS of 855. This does not strike me as a Hall of Fame resume. Good, all very good.
He was really, I'll tell you what. I'm just taking a look to see how many 300 seasons he had. 1, 2, 3.
300 batting average.
Yeah, I like to. That to me is an important number. 1, 2, 3.
It's really just 3.
3.
07.
Yeah, maybe not. Okay, maybe not. But let's see.
He's Hall of Very Good. He's not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, but you know what? But you have guys. But you know what? Let's be honest. You have guys who have less impressive credentials than him.
I get that. I get that.
Hall of Fame.
So what? Everyone who retires gets to go to Cooperstown now because Harold freaking Baines is in the Hall of Fame?
Well, see, the problem is
that's the worst one. Is he not the worst? That's like the worst one, right?
I think Tim Raines was pretty bad too, and I like Tim Raines, but Tim Raines was not good long enough to be in the Hall of Fame.
Tim Raines. So, let's look at Tim Raines' stats. So, Tim Raines is the benchmark. So, if you have better stats than Tim Raines, if you pass the eye test more than Tim Raines, because I got news for you. I can easily tell the story of baseball without using Tim Raines' name. You know, right?
Exactly. Tim Raines' stats. I got to look him up, but
he won a batting title. He was a 2-time World Series champion. He's a 7-time All-Star. He was an All-Star Game MVP.
Yeah, but he
294, 170 home runs,
stole a lot of bases.
Speedster and got on base. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think this resume is better than Harold Baines. I mean, Harold Baines, are you kidding me?
Let's see. He was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He was a 7-time All-Star, but after 1987, he played from 88 to 99 and was a very average ball player all those years. Okay. I mean, he's another one. He had 6 really good years. Okay. And then really after that, he was pretty much of an average player. Stole a lot of bases early in his career. As I said, after 1987, really didn't do much of anything. He had 808 stolen bases. That's a lot of stolen bases.
Yeah, it is.
It is. I mean, that's but I mean, stolen bases alone does not put you in the Hall of Fame. It didn't put Maury Wills in the Hall of Fame. Maury Wills had a hell of a lot of stolen bases. if you remember Lou Brock, for you history buffs, Lou Brock broke Maury Will's stolen base record, and then in turn Ricky broke Lou Brock's record. Okay, Lou Brock is in the Hall of Fame, by the way, but Maury Wills isn't. So listen. Bottom line is you need to have better all around. If you're a base stealer, you need to be an all around player. Like Ricky Henderson, he was a stolen base. He was a great stolen base guy. But you know what? It wasn't just that with Ricky. Ricky could play the field. He was a terrific hitter. He had all those leadoff home runs. He hit a lot of home runs. So there's no question about him.
And you have Fred McGriff, who I think should be in the Hall of Fame.
Fred McGriff is that's a guy that I don't understand. You and I have had this conversation about him a few times. Okay, let's real quick take a look here at Fred McGriff. Is Fred
493 home runs.
That's a lot of home runs.
284 batting average.
Nobody ever mentioned him with steroids. What's your excuse that he's not in?
Pretty good defensive first baseman as well. I know first base is kind of,
right.
Doesn't always get recognized as being a position, but he fielded a very good first base.
Here's something about Fred McGriff, Rob. In his entire career, there were only 2 years that he struck out more than 100 times. And if you take a look at the guys today, that's a lot. That's pretty darn good. And I mean, I'm looking at some of the classic things. 100 RBI. Now that's a benchmark that I like to use as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years of 100 or more RBIs. Okay, this guy is a legitimate hit slugger. 284. What he hit 493 home runs. What if he hit another 7 home runs? Would you have put him in? Is that what these stupid morons in the Hall of Fame voting think? That he didn't hit 500 home runs. What did this guy have to do? He won 2 World Series.
And then you have Ryan Howard, who only got 9% of the vote. He's off the ballot. Which is Ryan Howard a Hall of Famer? Ultimately, I think no.
Only because he didn't have enough good years. But Ryan Howard was really good.
Ryan Howard didn't come up till he's 25 years old because Ed Wade signed Jim Thome like he did, and it blocked him. But Ryan Howard should have more opportunities to get voted in than just be one and done.
I would agree with that.
I mean, he's an MVP. He's a 3-time All-Star, 2008 World Series champion, a home run derby champion, a Rookie of the Year.
Hit 59 home runs one year.
58 in his MVP
58?
season.
Okay, sorry, 58.
Yeah, 58.
Okay. Not a Philly
58,
fan.
149.
But I remember that. I mean,
he hit his MVP season, 58 home runs, 149 RBIs. Yeah, he struck out a lot, which frustrated some people in Philadelphia. But I mean, he hit 313 with 58 home runs, 149 RBIs, an on-base percentage of 42.5.
You're not going to get in for one good year, unfortunately.
I know, but I mean,
he's
got a 2006 to 2011 stretch where he was just, he was Babe Ruth. Nobody could get this guy out. He would go on these streaks, Brad, and he would just carry the team.
Yeah, I think a lot of people. I just don't think people gave him enough credit around the country for how good a player he was. And again, he didn't play long enough. But again, you can go back in history and look at some of the guys, and again, the Hall of Fame is so ridiculous as far as who they decide as a Hall of Famer and who's not a Hall of Famer. Is Jeff Bagwell better than him?
Yes.
You think Jeff Bagwell was a more dangerous hitter than Ryan Howard?
Wow.
In his prime?
Dangerous?
Yeah. Who would you rather face in a big spot?
I don't know, but Bagwell's got the longevity, and Bagwell was a good fielder. I mean,
But Bagwell may have done steroids. That's why he didn't get in right away. That's why it took him so long to get to get in. And listen, you can argue about a lot of guys, but I mean, when you put guys like Tim Raines in, and again, I like Tim Raines, but Tim Raines was not a Hall of Famer. Just because he had a lot of stolen bases, he's not the all-time league leader in stolen bases, and you can't compare him to Rickey Henderson. It's not even close. I mean, it just isn't. And of course, the big joke of all of them is Harold Baines. I mean, that's just
it's weak.
That's silly.
It's weak.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring up Harold Baines' numbers.
It's terrible. Like, it's a joke. And you have Rafael Palmeiro, who hit 288, 569 home runs, and he had 3,000 hits. And he'll never get a sniff. I don't know. I just don't have any respect for Cooperstown and the Hall of Fame and the way they do things. Just like I don't have any respect for Canton and the NFL Hall of Fame and the way they do things. It's a waste of time. What's the point?
Harold Baines' lifetime average was 289.
Decent.
Not bad. Let's see. He was an All-Star 4 times, won 1 Silver Slugger. 1. 5 times. He made it 1 other time. Okay, let's see what the important numbers. Home runs, 384. RBI 1,600 and stolen bases 34. Sorry, this guy is not a Hall of Famer. I mean, it's really kind of, his on base percentage was 356, and his slugging
that's not good enough.
His slugging was 465, and his OPS was 820.
Yeah, that's weak.
That's for a Hall of Famer. That's
weak.
Yeah, that's not particularly all that good. Never scored 100 runs in a season. I mean, even Aaron Judge got that. Let's see. Never had 200 hits.
Probably never had 100 RBIs.
I'm going to look at that right now. 1, 2, 3 times he had 100 RBIs. Wow. I mean, you take a look at this, and he's in the Hall of Fame, but Barry Bonds is not in the Hall of Fame. Barry Bonds had better number. Barry Bonds, you can make an argument. You could take Barry's worst 5 seasons, and I guarantee you they'd be better than Hal Baines' entire career.
But Barry Bonds is not allowed to be in. It's a joke. It's a joke. All right, let's segue. Let's talk some football. I want to get into the coaching carousel a little bit before we get into the championship games yesterday and then the Super Bowl, little Super Bowl maybe preview. Obviously, we'll get into that a lot next week with the bye week. Kind of putting a damper on the football momentum we have with these great games. Now we got to wait a week until the Super Bowl, which I don't get. But Brad, your Giants, you guys have a GM. I think you hit a home run there with Brian Dabble.
Not sure about the coach.
I mean, you got the guy who's been instrumental in developing Josh Allen, because can we really give McDermott credit for developing Josh Allen? I mean, he's a defensive guy.
No. I mean, I guess you can, because if you
got the guy who molded your favorite quarterback, which you said last week, and you've said a bunch of times here on the Sports Hounds, Josh Allen.
He listen, I guess you can say that, because I'll tell you, when he first came up, great arm, not very accurate. Showed a ton of ability. So I guess so. I mean, I guess you can. But I've also seen a couple of quarterbacks that, especially one, as we all know, who doesn't have a great offensive line, who somehow is great anyway, and that's Joe Burrow, who is spectacular. So, okay. I mean, I'm going to give the coach a chance. I'm not going to jump on him, even though Jim Mora has been just horrible. I'm sorry, John Mara. Jim Mora.
John Mara.
Okay. John Mara. Jim Mora. Playoffs. John Mara has been horrible when it comes to picking these guys. I think he did the right thing with the GM though. I'm pretty sure that this guy's going to do what he has to do. I don't want to see any I'm the smartest guy in the room moves like Dave Gettleman, because Dave Gettleman was just off the charts with his I'm the smartest guy in the room moves and not picking the best players. He always had to somehow justify. He's always had to justify his job because he traded Odell Beckham. That's basically what the problem is with him. He couldn't. He's in a situation where, he's the jackass that traded one of our best players ever. So he had to constantly try to show everybody how smart he was. And that didn't work out well. That just didn't. Now, as far as Dable goes, hopefully things will work out well with him. I mean, you're right. He did an excellent job with Josh Allen. Buffalo offense is dynamic. And you can't there's no denying what he was able to do. What I find interesting now is, Josh McDaniel gets hired as a head coach, yes. Dave Ziegler as a general manager out in Vegas. That's an interesting move. I think that's not a bad move for them. Although I
like that move. I mean, the Eagles were looking for a head coach not too long ago, and there were strong rumors that Josh McDaniels was going to be our guy, and I loved it. A lot of people didn't like it.
Did miserably fail in Denver.
Yeah, but I mean,
that was a long time ago. But
I think you learn from failure. Smart people learn from failure, and I think Josh McDaniels is a smart guy.
Listen, and Bill Belichick was not a very good coach when he was with Cleveland, but he figured somewhere along the line he figured it out.
Yeah, he figured out that if you draft Tom Brady in the 6th round, you're going to get a bunch of rings.
Yeah,
that's what he figured out. So good for him for figuring that out. But it's the same with Todd Bowles. Like Todd Bowles gets another job, not with the stinky Jets. Like he'll be successful. Like, I put money on it, and I put money that McDaniels with Derek Carr, and now they're going to get a GM out there. Maybe get some guys, pick some guys in the 1st round that can stay out of the clink, stay out of the slammer.
Yeah,
and you can get something going there. But I agree with you. I like that hire by the Raiders a lot. Nathaniel Hackett staying in the AFC West. Nathaniel Hackett, Packers offensive coordinator. He goes to Denver.
Yeah, and now all the rumors are starting to spread about Aaron Rodgers going to Denver.
See, now to me this is a lazy hire because I'm not sure that this man is qualified to be a head coach, but you're taking a shot in the dark that if you hire this guy, give him a nice 5-year contract, that you can somehow attract Aaron Rodgers to be your quarterback next year. Now, is it going to work like that? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see, but I don't know. I don't like this hire. I mean, the only way this hire is a success is if Aaron Rodgers comes with it.
Well, Denver does have 2 first-round picks this year, don't they?
No, they have 1, I think. 9.
Well, what do they get for Von Miller?
2 and a 3, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Not a 1.
Right. I thought that they got a first for him. Okay.
No.
Okay. They have some extra draft picks though, so I mean, in theory, they could. Yeah, the Packers could get a 1st and a 2nd rounder for him.
I mean, we'll see. And then I think it seems like Byron Leftwich is going to be the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, which I think
Byron Leftwich deserves his opportunity.
I mean, that's going to work down there. If anybody can turn around the Jaguars, it would be him.
Yeah, I think he deserves the opportunity. I think he's a good football man. He's been around a long time. He's certainly had his share of coordinator jobs, and he's never really been a bad coordinator, that's for sure.
And you got the Brady factor with him. I mean, he just coached with Tom Brady. Tom Brady as his quarterback for the past 2 seasons, and then.
Well, he's going to know what greatness is, and he'll be able to have some. He should be able to have some clout. I think he'll get the respect of the players. Here's what I'm trying to figure out: what is going on with the ex-coach of the Miami Dolphins,
Brian Flores? I don't know.
What is going on that he is not getting another job?
Well, I mean, he got fired, so he really doesn't have to take a job. He's going to get paid by the Dolphins for the next 2 years, I would imagine. At least 1 year, right?
Yeah, but he wants to coach. And what with the Giants? What stopped the Giants from hiring him?
Oh, I think the Giants hit a home run, Brad.
But no. I'm just curious between
because he's probably telling teams that he wants Watson, and the Giants, based on their history, aren't going to step up and trade for a guy like Watson.
Yeah, they're not. No, they're at this point, they're not going to do that. They're going to try to strengthen the team, and they're going to give Jones one more chance and see how it rolls this year. And if it doesn't roll this year, they'll get rid of him because they're not.
So you don't think your Giants are going to use 5 or 7 on a quarterback now that you have Dabble?
No, I think that they're going to get. No, I think they're going to try to get him to work with Jones and see if they can get Jones going. And if they can't, they're going to give him this year. They're going to try to fix the offensive line. They're going to. My opinion is they're going to go with a. The 5th round pick. They're going to go with an offensive lineman. 7th round pick. They're going to try to get the edge rusher. That's what I'm hearing. So if they go ahead and do that, I'm okay with that. And then take the 2nd round pick and try to get another offensive lineman in. Use free agency to get one more in, and then you can keep some of the other guys. Andrew Thomas is a keeper, I feel, and Will Hernandez, as far as he's concerned, I wouldn't bring him back to sell popcorn in a chair under the umbrella. That's how bad he was. What a disappointment he ended up being.
That was a 2nd round pick, right?
Yes, it was. And they're. I mean, look, the Giants have a lot more problems right now. There is no point in them trying to draft a quarterback at this point. It just is. It's there's no reason to do it. I mean, what quarterback really that's out there is going to be that much of an improvement on what you have right now?
I don't know. You know how it works with quarterbacks. They're projected in the 20s, and then they do a workout, and then they're in the 15s, and then they do a private workout. Then all of a sudden they're in the top 10, and then all of a sudden draft day comes. You got 2 of them going in the top 5, when maybe none of them should even go in the 1st round. You know how it works with quarterbacks.
Yeah, no. I agree. I agree with you. I just don't think it's worth it at this point. I think the Giants need to clean up the trenches. Let's get the trenches done. Your defensive line, as far as your defense is concerned, they got a pretty good defense. I would like to see them get a defensive end who can rush the passer. I think that would complete their defense, because the rest of it's pretty solid. I kind of like the guys they have right now, and I think they're young and they can improve. The defense isn't the problem. The offense is the problem. But if you're gonna draft an edge rusher who can get a lot of sacks, okay, that sounds good to me. They definitely need that. Okay, but work on the offensive line. If you can find yourself a tight end or a receiver late, go for it. If you can find a decent receiver in the 3rd round, that wouldn't be a bad move either. Or a tight end. Those would be moves I would consider strongly.
So now you got all the jobs are taken. Minnesota is still vacant. The Saints, obviously, they got a big opening to fill. Sean Payton stepping aside.
Sean Payton, that was a gutless move. I got to tell you, they're $70 million over the cap, and now all of a sudden he doesn't want to coach there anymore.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, well, you know what? When you've been
he's going to coach. He's going to coach the Cowboys. McCarthy's going to fall on his face again. Jerry's going to get all pissed off because they got all this talent and they keep falling short. And then Sean Payton's going to magically come back and be the coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to make that much of a difference.
You might be right, but the Saints need a football coach. The Vikings need a football coach. The Texans need a football coach. Agree. And the Dolphins need a football coach. Yeah,
so there's still 4 positions open.
It looks like Harbaugh is flirting hard with the Minnesota Vikings. They just had their 2nd interview with them yesterday. And I don't know. I guess if you're going anywhere of the remaining jobs, the Vikings has the most talent.
Well, you and I mentioned had talked about that last week, about who we thought was the best job right now. And I think we both agreed the Viking job was the best job right now, because you've got a star running back, you've got a star receive. Actually, you have 2 star receivers, and you have a reasonably good quarterback. So they kind of need a coach who's going to bring out the best offensively in that team, because that team should be scoring a lot more points. They have a lot.
They score enough points. They don't stop anybody ever.
Well, yeah, the last 2 years have been like that. They have to improve their defense, but they don't score enough either, Rob. I mean, with the talent they have offensively, they should score more.
Circling back to our poll, should Barry Bonds be in the Hall of Fame? Spirited baseball discussion at the top of the show. If you missed it, download us in podcast form, Spreaker, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, iTunes. Takeover Talk. Don't miss anything on A2D Radio. Download us wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Ryan checking us out on YouTube. No, it's not. It's a joke. He's a cheater. He took sports-enhancing drugs. I loved watching him, but it's simply not fair to the men who didn't take steroids, although I know a lot do. So what's your line, Ryan? Like, how do you figure out who gets in the Hall of Fame? Because it's okay for David Ortiz to be on the Mitchell Report and be in the Hall of Fame, but Barry Bonds, he's not allowed in. Roger Clemens is not allowed in. Pete Rose not allowed in, albeit for other character flaws. Maguire and Sosa with the home run chase in 1998 saved baseball after the strike in 94. How can you tell the story of baseball without including the home run chase between Maguire and Sosa in the summer of 1998? You can't. All 5 are Hall of Famers. So I don't know where. I get it.
How is Rafael Palmeiro not a Hall of Famer?
3,000 hits, almost 600 home runs, 300 average, 3-time Gold Glove winner. He's not in.
You think about it. How many guys had 3,000 hits and 500 home runs?
Probably not a lot.
Eddie Murray comes to mind.
Willie Mays, Eddie.
I don't know if Willie Mays did. Willie Mays have 3,000 hits?
I think he did.
But listen, I know Eddie Murray did, but he's the only one that comes to mind right now.
I think
A-Rod does.
A-Rod does. Palmeiro, Willie Mays,
Barry Bonds. No, Barry Bonds. Did Barry Bonds get 3,000 hits?
I don't think he did. No.
Okay.
Yeah, Willie Mays had 32.93.
Okay.
So he's in. No, I don't think Barry Bonds got 3,000 hits. Probably the only thing he didn't do. Now he came just short, 29.35.
Okay.
Just short.
Close enough. Listen, he could have played another season. It's just that the press was dogging him so much, he just decided, I've had enough.
So, Ryan, what's your threshold? How do you determine who's worthy of Cooperstown and who's not? Because Barry Bonds isn't. His stats are ridiculous. His stats are Xbox like.
Yeah, they are. He was that good.
Roger Clemens, he's like the steroids. He's like the pitching version of Barry Bonds, having Xbox-like stats, video game-like numbers. Guy won 7 Cy Youngs. He won the Triple Crown of pitching not once but twice. So, he's not allowed in because, he's a cheater. And you said yourself you like watching him play. So, I don't get it. And then you can let a guy like Ortiz in who only played half the game, never stepped foot on the field, wasn't good enough to, and he's allowed to get in.
And he had character flaws, by the way.
Gary Sheffield should absolutely be in the Hall of Fame. Gary Sheffield, because he's linked to steroids, gets the cold shoulder from the Writers Association. Wasn't Gary Sheffield, because he played in New York, Brad. So I'll defer to you on this. Wasn't he like a private guy?
Everybody liked him in New York.
Yeah, even the media.
Yeah, he got along with the media really well in New York. That's the whole that's what's so puzzling about the whole thing. Everybody liked Gary Sheffield. The only thing that they didn't like was that he didn't like Melky Cabrera. And Melky Cabrera was the Yankee center fielder, and he didn't like him and Cano. So that was basically why he ended up being gone from the Yankees.
But like Gary Sheffield, 2,600 hits, 500 home runs, 292 batting average.
Played shortstop, third base, and first base.
Just a hair under a 400 on base percentage. The OPS is well over 850 at 907. So I don't know what more you want. I don't know how David Ortiz can get in, and a guy like
and Gary
Sheffield can't get a vote.
And he was an extremely dangerous hitter.
Oh, he's one of the most violent swings I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's funny when he was up, the third base coach for the Yankees used to go behind third base and all the way by the stands to get as far away from him as possible, because he was afraid of the vicious line drives he used to hit. So I mean, the guy that you're talking about baseball, and you're not going to include this guy in your museum as one of the great hitters of the game? Are you kidding me? And one of the great
the guy never came close. Gary Sheffield never came close to striking out even 100 times in a season.
No, he was he was just such a good hitter. I mean,
the most he ever struck out in his career was 83 times.
Yeah, it didn't seem like he struck out that much when he was on the Yankees either. I remember one time.
So he struck out 83 times in his second to last season with the Tigers, and he struck out 83 times in 2004 with the Yankees. So he did it twice.
I also remember a game when he was playing right field in Fenway Park, and he went back to the fence because there was I think a ball that was hit down the line and it circled over the fence, and some Red Sox fan threw beer in his face and punched him in the face when he was trying to field the ball. And I'll never forget this. He threw the ball back into the infield, and then he went right after the guy, and he got criticized for that. Because he went after some jerk off in the front row who punched him in the face and threw beer on him, and then punched him when he was trying to go get the ball. I mean, another one of those real classy Red Sox fans.
Greg Malakovic, he absolutely agrees to the poll. So he's a Bonds guy. He's a smart baseball man as well. Alex Fritter, he's in the house. Who dey? Bayou Bengals, hammer -2.5. Let's get into the Championship Sunday. Our Championship Sunday talk is brought to you by FanUp. FanUp is the #1 way to enjoy fantasy sports, daily NFL contests, and more. Win great prizes. Sign up today. Use promo code A2D. 5,000 bonus points. That's a $50 value. Only in the Apple App Store. Download FanUp. Brett, I mean, what can we say? I mean, about Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals than what more can you say? Unbelievable. They're down 21-3, 18-point deficit. Doesn't matter. In Kansas City, in Arrowhead. Brad, I knew right when Andy Reid turned down that field goal at the end of the half, and they threw that little swing pass to Tyreek Hill.
That may have been one of the dumbest calls I've ever seen.
Just kick the ball. Ball.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, it's funny. Everybody was killing Doug McDermott about the stupidity he had, the brain freeze that he had by not kicking off to the Chiefs with 13 seconds to go and letting them run the ball back and having it take 4 or 5 seconds off the clock. Okay? Here's a situation where 3 points, those extra 3 points would absolutely have put the nail in the coffin in this game.
It would have helped a lot because then you go up 24-10.
24-10, yeah.
And you're getting the ball after half.
Right. You're going up 24-10. It just seemed to me like when they did that and they ended up with no points, I think basically that absolutely put some wind in the sails of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh, it was a huge momentum swing. You could see it. You could see it on the TV with the swag that the Bengals defense had.
That gave them a huge.
And then Brad, they go out. The Chiefs get the ball, and they go. I think they went 3 and out.
Yeah, they went 3 and out, and then the Bengals scored. And when they made it 20, when they got that touchdown, I think they hit a 2-point. They got did they hit the 2-point conversion the first time?
No, because they got it to 21-13. They kicked the field goal somewhere along the way. Then they tied it. with
right.
the
Okay,
touchdown and 2-pointer.
That's when they went for the 2-point conversion. But I mean, when they got it to 21-10, I said to myself, "Game on, baby." You know, and sure enough, I was rooting for Cincinnati. I wanted to see them win. You know,
I mean, 7-point dogs on the road. I mean, I picked them on the rant yesterday.
Well, I know you were picking them last week too. I mean, I remember in the middle of the season you were saying, or you were calling them the best team in the league, and I doubted you. But you said it. I remember you did say it after when they clobbered the Ravens that first time they played the Ravens. I think they beat them like 40.
Well, they just ran through that division, and like I know Cleveland has their problems, and the Ravens had their problems, and the Steelers, they were a playoff team. I mean, I don't think they lost a game within their division.
Probably not.
Pretty good division.
It's not just that. That team when they beat the Chiefs at the end of the season. To me, that meant something, obviously, to them because that gave them the confidence. I mean, they were, and honestly, they were galvanized after that first half when they stopped Kansas City. That just galvanized the team. So that's something you can't do stuff like that and give the other team momentum. You know, that's why it was so important to at least kick the field goal and get the 3 points. I mean, Andy got greedy. Also, the call was stupid. Why would you throw a pass like that to Hill? Why wouldn't you throw the ball in the end zone?
Yeah, it's like it's 4th and 4, and you run a 2-yard route. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, you take a 3-step drop. If your guy isn't open, just throw it away. You know, I mean, or intentionally ground it. What's the difference? You'll kick a field goal on the next play. It was 3rd down anyway. I mean, the whole thing made absolutely no sense. You don't give up. You don't leave points on the board, especially in playoff games. You know, I mean, I honestly thought that the LA Rams were going to lose because of all the mistakes they made against the 49ers. I mean, look at some of the mistakes they made. Glaring, Rob. Glaring. I mean, Stafford's interception on that first drive when they marched right down the field, and then he threw an interception in the end zone, which was a dumb pass, and he knew he made a dumb pass. You know, and then the Rams did a lot of stuff that could have been self-destructing. The guy dropping the short touchdown pass in the end zone, that was another one. I mean, they made enough mistakes to let San Francisco win, but darn if the Rams didn't come back and win the game. And
because it was 17-7 with in the second half.
It was 17-7 in the fourth quarter.
But I mean, I'm really happy for Stafford. And
I am too. I mean, I always liked Stafford, and you know what? It was nice to see Odell Beckham come back and have such a real solid game. I mean, Kupp had more receptions and he had more yards, but OBJ still had 9 catches for 103 yards, something along those lines. And you know what? To have both of them as receivers to pick, I mean, my God, how would you like to be a quarter? I mean, Matt Stafford went from the Detroit Lions to having those two guys to throw the ball to, and Cam Akers isn't a slouch either. I mean, my God, you think about it, that was just that's some team that they've got now, the Rams. You know, I as you remember, I did pick them to win the Super Bowl this year, so my selection is still there. I can proudly say that. They were looking good. I mean, I thought that they were going to lose the game, but they found a way, even though I don't think they played their best game by a long shot, but they found a way to beat a team that owned them.
But, you know, the Niners, they just win. They do all those little things that make them annoying. And, you know, they make them a tough out. So, like, I didn't expect.
They have a great defense, to be sure. They have a really, really good defense. They have a good running game. They got Deebo Samuel, who is just a superior player. And, you know, Jimmy G is pretty good. But Jimmy G, I think, finally, when push came to shove, Jimmy G couldn't handle the 2-minute drill at all. You know,
he's still better than Jalen Hurts, Brad. I would still give up pick 51 to have him in Philadelphia.
Listen. What I'm going to say about Jimmy G. Jimmy G is a winner. Okay, he is a winner. When you can get a team to the Super Bowl and you lose in the Super Bowl and you lose in the championship round, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Okay, nothing to be ashamed of. Although, it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up. If I'm the Eagles, I think I would shoot a little higher than Jimmy G, to be honest with you.
Oh, you progress. I want Russell Wilson. You know that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't blame you. I mean, he's Russell Wilson could make them Final Four material without a doubt in the conference. With him on the team, they're definitely winning.
Especially when you look at an NFC that might not have Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady in it next year.
Exactly.
So, the seas are parting. Howie's going to – I tell you what, and, Tom Brady retired. He's not retired. He's thinking about it. I don't know what the hell's going on.
I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's playing.
I think he was thinking about retiring, and somehow someone spilled the beans, and now he's pissed off, and he's going to come back. He's going to make a run at another Super Bowl. That's what I think is going to happen. I hope he retires.
I mean, he should, because you know what he should, because in the NFC – there's really no up-and-coming quarterbacks right now. Okay,
especially if Rodgers leaves. Let's say Rodgers goes to Denver with Hackett.
Yeah,
all the
up-and-coming young great quarterbacks are in the AFC right now. Burrow,
Brad, if Brady and Rodgers leave the NFC, who's the best quarterback? It's Stafford and Dak Prescott. That's the benchmark of quarterback in the NFC. Kyler Murray, he can't win nothing.
No, yeah, you're right. I mean, you're
right
about that.
He folds up every time there's a big game. Every time whenever the Leafs change colors,
that's
Kyler Murray folds up.
But that's why I think Brady is going to stay. I think he's going to play.
I hope he leaves because I want the Eagles. I want Howie to grab me a quarterback, whether it's Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, Derek Carr, like whoever, to get me over the top, and we just have the C's part in the NFC. And all I got to do is outperform Dak Prescott or Matt Stafford. I mean, Stafford's pretty good.
All the good young quarterbacks right now, and there are a ton of them. They're all in the AFC. You got Allen, Mahomes, Justin Herbert.
Lamar Jackson's in the AFC.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson.
Still a young guy.
Joe Burrow. Can't forget about him.
Can't forget about Joe Burrow.
Sure. I mean, all these are really, really young players. So who have their whole careers ahead of them. Tom Brady could end up having a cakewalk if he comes back next year and could go to the Super Bowl. I mean, why wouldn't he want to come back for one more shot?
Bob Brinkman, the Rams' pressure is intense. They turned it up at the end. Remember, the Bengals gave up 9 sacks against the Titans. That's a good point. I think
that's why the Rams are going to end up winning the game, just because their defense, when their defense turns it up, they're just incredible right now.
I mean, Donald is just a wrecking crew in the middle of that line.
Yeah, but it's not just him. You've got
no, of course not.
He's one of many. To be perfectly honest, that their defense, and we've mentioned this several times about their defense. There's 3 parts of your defense, right? There's your front four, then your linebacking crew, and your secondary, the safeties and the cornerbacks. And I mean, you've got stars all over the field. And even Eric Weddle yesterday, he came in and he made that big play. If you recall,
he hasn't even played football since 2019.
Yeah, he comes in and he makes a big play at the end. So I mean, that team, I just think that defensively, they're going to put a lot of pressure on Joe Burrow. I can't see it. I just can't see it, Rob. Their defense the Rams' defense is significantly better than Kansas City Chiefs or the Tennessee Titans, or the Raiders, the teams.
What do you think the early spread is, Brad? I have it right here. I want to see if you can guess it.
I'm going to say 5.5 for the Rams.
Rams are favored by 4.5.
I was close. Okay,
we're close.
Okay.
I like look. I've been riding the Bengals pretty much the whole second half of the year since they came back and beat the Chiefs. Really, since they smoked the Ravens, I've been kind of enamored with what's been going on in Cincinnati. So I'm not about to go against them now. I think they're going to win it. Even though it wouldn't break my heart to see Stafford win finally either. It'll be a good game.
Yeah, but the problem is that the Rams defense is a notch above all those other teams. And really in the NFC, there's three great defenses in the NFC. Tampa Bay, the Rams, and San Francisco. They're by far and away the best defenses in the NFC. So, and the Rams have already faced those two defenses, and they're so gifted offensively, they find a way to score anyway. So that's the thing. They can run the football, they can also throw the football. We've talked about their dynamic receivers. Even when Higbee went out yesterday, some guy who I've never heard of came off the bench.
Yeah, Blanton, whoever that was.
Yeah, I've never heard of him, but he was a major factor yesterday. He had a whole bunch of catches. I mean, the Rams are just they're so loaded with players. It's just Cincinnati is really going to be up against it with that team because, as I said, both sides of the ball are pretty good. Now, their special teams, I don't like their field goal kicker at all.
Who, Matt Gay?
Yeah, I don't like him. I think he's erratic. He has no range. He missed a 45-yard field goal the week before. This week he missed a 54-yarder, and I mean he put that about 40 feet wide and short. I mean, I can understand. You can excuse him for missing a field goal that far, but you can't miss it by that much. That's just I don't know how that would happen. I just think they're just a little too much for the Bengals. I hope the Bengals win because I mean I would love to see it. I think that Cincinnati fans are very loyal fans, and they've stood by this team for a long time. And I mean, everybody used to call them the Bungles, and they had a lot of unfortunate things that have happened to them. You look back in history, Akili Smith they pick as their quarterback, and some of the other horrible decisions that franchise has made letting guys go. I mean, they haven't really been good since they had Boomer Esiason on the team as a quarterback.
They had a brief cup of coffee in the spotlight with Carson Palmer and that crew.
Yeah, until Lloyd went and cheap shot at him and hurt his knee. Went for his knee and knocked him out, and then the Bengals started choking in the playoffs every year. I mean, they had that, but it just seems like that franchise has just never been able to buy a break. It's good to see them finally come back and win a game. And boy, you know what? All I could think of, Rob, was when Mahomes threw that interception in overtime. I kept thinking to myself, that reminds me of the Eagle-Tampa Bay game. I don't know why, but that just totally, because I think Kansas City was a better team than Cincinnati. Just like I think the Eagles that year, you can tell me anything you want. You know how much I can't stand the Eagles, but you know what? They were better than Tampa Bay that year, and they should not have lost that game. And I can't.
Yeah, but you remember McNabb had the broken ankle, and that was his first game back.
Yeah, but still,
he played in the division round, so it was his second game back.
Yeah, but the Eagles were a better team.
That looked like it at a Philadelphia Eagles early 2000s championship game performance yesterday.
Yeah, I mean
I sat in the stadium for the Tampa Bay loss, the Carolina loss. They finally beat
the Carolina
Atlanta.
loss. The Carolina loss was a little different. They were just really flat that game. They just, for whatever reason, they played a very bad game.
Because the Carolina Panthers defensive coaches finally realized that Todd Pinkston and James Thrash were terrible, and Freddie Mitchell as the slot guy. Freddie might not have been there yet. I'm not sure.
I don't remember that.
They figured out that those guys were trash, and they just press manned them back in an era where you could do that and get away with it. And the Eagles receivers couldn't get off the line. And Ricky Manning Jr., whoever that is.
I remember him. I remember him.
I mean, I had never heard of him before that game, and I haven't heard his name once after that game. But he had 3 picks against Stinkston and Trash.
I think he
So
used to play
that's
for.
what happened there.
I think he played for San Francisco before he went there.
Good.
When
Good
San
for him.
Francisco
Fuck
their
that
glory
guy.
days, but
Ricky
maybe
Manning Jr.
But that game, I don't know why, but I kept thinking about the Eagle Tampa game because it was the same kind of Andy Reid stuff. He just, I don't know, he was so stubborn about trying to throw the ball down the field. I mean, really, he should have just been trying to do the three step drop and trying to get quick passes. Instead, he was so stubborn about trying to throw the ball a mile down the field all the time, and it just wasn't working. And the Bengals figured out how to keep Tyreek Hill in check.
But I mean, I don't understand because like Andy and Mahomes, like they got 3 touchdowns. Boom, boom, boom.
I know,
and
they
like
did.
I'm sitting around with my buddies who were watching the game. We're watching the game together, and we're like, "Whoa, like this could get ugly." And then the Bengals' best defense was Andy Reid, trying to go for that stupid swing pass on 4th and goal instead of kicking the field goal. And then the Bengals defense, as you put it, got galvanized, and they get 3 and out to start the second half.
In the end zone. I mean, this is as dumb as the Bills were the week before about not just kicking the ball off. And making the Chiefs have to use a few seconds to
it's like it's 4th and 8. It's 3rd and 8, and you run a 5-yard curl.
Yeah.
No, you don't run a 5-yard curl on 3rd and 8. You don't do that.
I mean, I just don't understand. And Andy's a good coach. I'm not saying he's not a good coach, but he's always throughout his career done some mind-boggling things, and it always seems to be in the championship games. It's never early. It's always the game that gets you to the Super Bowl, and he always seemed to do that. And it's too bad. It's too bad.
I mean, you don't have to tell me on that as a Philadelphia Eagles fan. I mean,
I mean, maybe I'm off base here. And Tom, I appreciate the support about you agreeing about that. It reminded me of the Tampa Bay game. It really did. Just same kind of thing. I mean, the Eagles should have won that game, and the Chiefs should have won yesterday. But I'm glad that they didn't. I'm glad to see Cincinnati in there. Bengal fans deserve that.
Did you see that the Cincinnati public school system already shut down class Monday after the Super Bowl, so no one has to go to school? Win or lose, they're off.
Oh boy, yeah. Well, you know what? Good for them.
Can we get that to be a national holiday Monday after the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what the absenteeism is around the country.
I mean, I'm lucky right now. I mean, I work today because of they didn't send trucks out on Saturday because of the snowstorm. So I work today, but I'm usually off Monday, so I don't have to worry about it. But I mean, I'm never trying to go to work on Monday.
Yeah.
Fuck my job. I hate my job. I'm never trying to go on Monday. You go to work on Monday. Fuck that. But I mean, everyone should have off. Everyone should have off Monday after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
And the NFL is that entrenched in our everyday society that should be a national holiday.
Yeah, well, football is unique, and the reason football is unique is because even when it's not your team, even when your team isn't in the game, in the big games in the playoffs, everybody watches anyway. That is the one sport. It's not regional. Everybody watches anyway. And that's the difference between football.
And even if football is not your thing this year, I mean, you have a loaded halftime show. I mean, this is like the first halftime show that caters to, my age demographic as opposed to, your age demographic. You got Kendrick Lamar, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre.
That's okay. I never watched. You know what? I never watched the halftime shows anyway. Because I
missed them. I mean, Janet Jackson, you should check it out. I mean, Janet Jackson pulled a titty out one year.
Yeah, well, that was kind of. She had a little help. Didn't she have a little help from Justin Timberlake?
Yeah, Justin Timberlake. He ripped that titty right out.
Yep.
Fucking Justin Timberlake. Good, wholesome dude. Married the girl from Seventh Heaven. He's freaking ripping titties out at the Super Bowl halftime show. You should check it out.
Yep. That's
Shakira
true.
and J-Lo, they were shaking asses left and right a couple years ago. Now you're gonna have.
Well, I remember the Who was doing it. I think they had Tom Petty.
Yeah, that's.
They've had their share. They've had their share. Listen,
let me get the. Because it's Snoop, it's Dre, it's Eminem. There's a. Let me pull it up here.
Yeah, see, I hate those halftime shows because you know what, they take away from the game because they're
Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, and Kendrick Lamar.
I mean, listen. I'm not saying it's not a solid group of performers. It's not about
I don't
that.
care either, but I mean,
I hate that because you know what, as I said, it ruins it for me because
if you're going to stop the game for 45 minutes and I'm like going to be basically forced to watch something, at least it's Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, and Kendrick Lamar.
True.
The bunch of artists that are like entrenched on my Apple Music account.
Yeah, no. I hear you, but I just, I to me it's about the game. I think that whole thing, and the fact that they let all those kids on the field bugs the shit out of me because then it takes 20 minutes to get those idiots off the field too. So it's just that's just my personal opinion.
Bob Brickman, people watch for the commercials. I mean, look, Super Bowl commercials aren't what they were 10 years ago. Because everyone's scared to tell fucking jokes, Brad. Because they're going to offend someone.
They're going to be social, that they're going to offend somebody on social media, and that they're going to get
the kibosh. Yeah, it would be out. Yeah. So I mean,
yeah, it's unfortunate that happens, but it is what it is. You can't really change that.
All right, great conversation tonight. Baseball Hall of Fame, some football stuff. We enjoyed it. Thank you, everyone who liked the show, subscribed to the show, commented on the show. Don19 in the house. But if you missed the show, download us in podcast form. Spreaker, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, iTunes. Takeover Talk. Don't miss anything here. Turn those notifications on. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Thank you, Frank Vesby, for producing the show. Thank you to all our sponsors, Gleason Bar and Grill, Fan Up, Specialized Physical Therapy, Dr. Paul Vidal, Body Check Wellness. Keep it locked in. A2D social media for all your breaking news. He's Brad Ryer. I'm Rob Brinkman. We'll be back next week with a full Super Bowl preview. Until then, peace out, everybody.